don't want to be remiss in thanking our sponsors. So thank you, Julia, for pulling them back up here. Huge thank you to all of our presenting sponsors you see on the screen. We appreciate you investing in this conversation to allow the conversation to elevate the nonprofit leaders in this space. So thank you, Julia, for having me. Julia is the mastermind behind this all. She is the CEO of the American Nonprofit Academy, and I highly encourage you to check out that website. There's so many resources available to you right there at the AmericanNonprofitAcademy.com. I am Jarrett Ransom, also known as the Nonprofit Nerd, CEO of the Raven Group, and I am thrilled to be here today with our guest, whom I've had the great pleasure of meeting early in my career. So Amy, I think I knew you, gosh, before you got married. I mean, it's just been a long time. And at that time, if I may share, it was through the Valley of the Sun United Way. So Amy Schwabenlinder, who, if you see her name, it's hard, but I've been saying it for 10 years plus, so it kind of rolls off. But Amy, thanks for joining us, and you certainly have shifted and evolved over the decade, as have I. I'm so thrilled to have you join us. Welcome, Amy.
Thank you so much for having me. Yes, and thank you for saying we've known each other a long time, not that we're old colleagues.
No, it's just been a long time.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
So, yeah.
So Amy, tell us what the Human Services Campus is. It's such an interesting concept, and it is such a vast concept.
Yes, it really is. And thank you for having me on to talk about it. I think we have a really unique model in the country, and a lot of cities have visited here to see what we're doing and replicate it to some degree. And we're in our 15th year of operating. So a lot has changed, and a lot's really still the same from 15 years ago, where the idea was to co-locate services for individuals experiencing homelessness. Many organizations were in this general neighborhood 15 years ago. However, they were scattered about a little bit. So Healthcare for the Homeless had a clinic, and CAS, Central Arizona Shelter Services, was here as shelter, and St. Vincent de Paul had a dining room a few blocks away. And we're in the Capitol Mall area of downtown Phoenix. We're at 13th Avenue-ish and Jefferson. We have 13 acres, over 8 buildings that we operate, and in the beginning, Maricopa County owned the property, and a governance structure was set up with member managers of nonprofits to operate this place. And at that time, there were about 1,000 people experiencing homelessness here in the immediate neighborhood. Unfortunately, today, when we do counts, there's still about 1,000 people. They're different people. There's still always about the same number of people in this area. And so what we do is we're open 365 days a year to provide this holistic approach of services, everything from healthcare, dental, shelter, job training, 3 meals a day, lots of things in between to really put each individual on their own journey to permanent, affordable, safe housing. So everyone's learned a lot over 15 years. Yes, I was at United Way for 13 years. I just had my 2-year anniversary here, and it's really been it's been transformational for me to take that United Way outside kind of funder experience and bring it here to work in direct service, and to the impact that we have all together, this collective of organizations, is really unique.
Amy, I have a question, comment. I don't know. I'd love to know how you handle and manage this. But one of the biggest things I realized, and I was, really naive to the individuals experiencing homelessness demographic, is the necessity, and I don't know if freedom's the right word, that having an address to their name, if you will, serves so many purposes. So not only like identification, but to have a place where they can receive mail. Absolutely. Is that a service that you still offer?
It is, yes. We
That's
have
the one that yeah,
Yeah.
it speaks to my heart all the
Oh,
time.
yeah, no, and yeah, thanks for that. I could spend, 30 minutes just talking about all the programs here. There's 16 organizations with 20 some programs and services, so I never mean to leave anyone out, yet that can
Sure.
take a really long time. And the mailroom is super important. We have a contract with the United States Postal Service to be able to offer our address to anyone who wants to use it. And um, COVID's changed lots of things here. So number of people accessing services is a little lower than in the past. In a non-COVID year, there were about 5,000 people using the address here to pick up their mail. And it is important, if anyone steps back, to think about where you have to write an address that can't be a PO box and it can't be general delivery. You have to have digits in a street and a zip code to put on a job application, to put on a rental application, to be able to find a place to live, to have a social security card mailed to have communications from your health insurance provider mailed to have your ballot to vote. If you're doing a mail-in ballot, you have to have an address. And it's something, in fact, I spent about an hour in the mailroom yesterday because it is maybe oddly like one of my favorite places to be, because there's so much activity. There's all the mail that comes in and it's sorted, and clients come up to an outdoor window and they have to show an ID so that we know it really is them getting their mail. And it's it's something we all do, right? So I think in a way it also makes homelessness relatable to have this conversation about, we all get mail, where do we pick it up?
So empowering. That simple
Yeah.
service, or seems so simple,
Mm-hmm.
is so extremely empowering. So you're
Mm-hmm.
right, Amy, that is one of many, many, many amazing programs and services that you
Mm-hmm.
offer.
Yeah.
Thanks for going into a little more detail there.
Of course, yeah.
So talk to us about, I mean, you mentioned this with COVID-19 and the pandemic. Talk about that current demand and need and what this looks like and how it's shifted.
Sure. So in calendar year 2019, we served here at this campus over 6,500 unduplicated individuals. And we could shelter, CAS has the capacity to shelter over 400 people a night. And we were turning away about 500 people a month who were seeking shelter. And we would have to say the shelter is full, maybe refer them to other shelters. Shelters in Maricopa County tend to stay full. We generally don't have enough shelter for everyone seeking it. And we have people who are unsheltered. I always look to the window because it's right outside my window where I can see Madison Street and numbers of people in tents and with creative, coverings with tarps. And so there were, before March, there were nearly 300 people unsheltered right here in our neighborhood who could be on campus during the day and access all those services. However, we couldn't offer them shelter overnight. And in early March, when we all started to learn so much about COVID-19 and the CDC started making recommendations, we had to adapt every part of the operation here to ensure physical distancing, to reduce the capacity in any building. So CAS has reduced to a maximum of 390 people a night, because they had to move beds and bunks and make sure that there was greater separation. Of course, we had employees start to wear masks and gloves, and by early May started requiring clients to wear face coverings or masks. So this constant adaptation, and we have seen fewer people coming to this place. We still have, and with less capacity for shelter, of course, we still have a high number of unsheltered people right here. Working with the county, Maricopa County Human Services Department and Public Health, they've made a lot of isolation and quarantine spaces available for people who are tested for COVID and for those who test positive, which really means all of us as nonprofits and governmental organizations are also doing our services in more places. Because as we create this literal physical distancing, it means everything gets spread out, and we're finding new buildings and new ways of continuing to provide as much service as possible.
So that kind of leads me into the next question, and that is, what's the health, the general health of these referral organizations that you work with? Because Jarrett and I talk so often is that, you know, we work with other nonprofits.
Yeah.
So when somebody goes down, then a lot of times our service level goes up, or what is that looking like?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, because almost every organization here is considered an essential service. And, you know, we haven't closed the doors. We haven't shut down for any period of time. We've still been open every day. And Circle the City is the healthcare provider on campus. They're the healthcare for the homeless clinics. So they have access to new one-time funds for providing lots of health-related services. The CARES Act money to the state municipalities has helped to fund some of this adaptation for shelter. As the Human Services Campus, Inc., our nonprofit, we've benefited tremendously, and so gracious, you know, thankful for local philanthropy and corporations who reached out in late March, early April to say, what do you need? How can we help you? And of course, it was like a constantly changing budget, because, well, we think this is what we're going to do in April. And then maybe, you know, we realized, oh, wow, now to staff this, we've brought on, my team has gone from 39 to 45 employees with temporary seasonal workers to do more of these I keep doing this, but, you know, we're literally branching out and having to be outside doing COVID screenings and referring people who might have symptoms to the health clinic. So fortunately here, I can't speak for all 16 organizations. No one has closed. And some of the nonprofits have shrunk their hours of operation. St. Vincent de Paul and Andre House both rely on so many. Sorry, I thought I put my phone on Do Not Disturb.
That's okay. No, that's fine.
Real life. Do not disturb. St. Vincent de Paul and Andre House rely on volunteers to prepare meals and serve meals. And in March, they made the hard decision to say, you know, it's not safe for volunteers. It's not necessarily safe for our clients. And they changed their model of preparing most of the food to buying food from restaurants and prepackaged, moving congregate indoor dining, you know, where 10 people could be around a table, to being outside in a chair 6 feet apart from the next person, and using, having to rely on staff but never missed a meal. So we've still had 3 meals a day. It's just that it's been challenging, and it's hard on those organizations to continue to do their service without volunteers. And they're just now starting to look at, is there a way to safely bring back small groups of volunteers? It's very costly, as you can imagine, to go buy restaurant food. Everyone did great supporting local business. So we did, you know.
Yeah, that's nice. One of the things, and I just want to honor and recognize that is a lot of reimagining service delivery. So kudos to you, the organization, everyone on your team. One of the questions we like to ask is, because of COVID, during this pandemic, what have you done that you will continue to do because it's been working really well? Or, you know, I've always said, Amy and Julia, it's really good to say this, it's like, we were due for a shakeup. Our sector has been doing the same old for way too damn long. Sorry, you need a beep on that. So, well, like, for too long that, you know, it's really time for a shakeup. It's time to reimagine. And you've just given us so many wonderful examples of how the service delivery in particular has been, you know, reimagined. What do you think will stay? What will stick because it's been very successful?
I think what will stick, and I feel like it's part of my job, so being the HSC, I mentioned the county owned the property. They deeded the property in fall of 2017 to our nonprofit. So we're an owner, operator, landlord, however you want to look at it. And I do feel like it's part of my job to keep some of this change going and to be long lasting. And, some people have said, well, out of every good, make good of every crisis, or whatever the saying is. So there's an opportunity to use crisis to make change and to find the silver linings. And I think here on this campus, it's demonstrated the original mission, which was collaborating to end homelessness. Mm-hmm. And I operate out of a collective impact framework, which says don't duplicate services and have mutually reinforcing activities. And I think since March, because of crisis, we've each been forced to stay in our lane, to use our strengths, and to work with each other, because no one has capacity to do more than what your original mission, purpose, and now your core competency is. And so it's actually like, sometimes, in a geeky way, I think that's such a beautiful thing. We're now living the campus mission, and we're living collective impact. And again, I do believe organizationally, and my peers are seeing the benefit of doing that. Again, in some ways, we've collaborated differently on making fundraising asks, which is another thing we've talked about for 2 years. And now, not that we have to do it, the story is easier to tell when we can say, this organization does this and this one does this. And so collectively, we serve, I don't know the total number right now, what the 2020 number is going to look like. I would guess it's going to be less than 6,000, but more than 4,000. And so collectively, we're providing holistic services to that many people in a year. And we're all working towards the outcome of finding everyone a permanent, affordable, safe home. So yeah, I get excited about it, Jared.
Me too. I love that approach, Amy. Thanks for going into more detail. I always say when I consult or speak in front of, nonprofit conferences, is I see our community as one big puzzle, and we each have a piece to put into the puzzle. So visually, right, if you can picture a puzzle, and then if you play your part and you put it in the right place at the right time, together, collectively, we're able to meet the needs of our community. So I've always said, see it as a puzzle, and what puzzle piece do we play?
Yeah, definitely.
I love that. I love that, Jared. I think that's absolutely right. And when you go to the Human Service Campus, it's really profound, because you just see all of these different things going on, and they all fit and they all work. And last year, I was really privileged to be on campus with the Mandela Scholars from Africa. And it was fascinating, these African leaders from all over that came to observe this site. And over the period of time that they were in this country, that ended up being one of the most impactful things for them. Leaders from all over that continent who were just like, wow. When you look at the magic of these people doing these different things, working in concert, profound. Super profound. Awesome. Hey, I want to ask you another question, and oh my gosh, it's like hard to believe this might be my last question because our time is going by. But how do you continue to build empathy for your organization and the people that you serve during a time that has upended so many things? I mean, how do you compete, if you will, for those resources that aren't just financial, but they're emotional, they're educational?
Yeah, it's I've been on a mission to communicate that homelessness is a public health crisis, and that housing is healthcare. And really, all the services provided here address the social determinants of health. And people aren't healthy in their community without the types of services we provide here. And again, really using COVID-19 to demonstrate the impact on a person and a population of people when they don't have access to a home to isolate in. And we were all told, right, in March here in Arizona, stay home, isolate at home. And if you don't have a home, you can't isolate at home. And really, that's what we've been talking about collectively in the message that I've had with foundations and the philanthropy community around this demonstrates so much that to have health, you have to have access to the type of services that we provide. And again, I think that's another ongoing thing that we will talk about and we will leverage. And I hope we flip the message from just talking about homelessness, because our clients are not just lacking a home. Yeah. They're lacking health. They're lacking sustainable, nutritious food, right? We can provide all of that day to day. If we really want to help people find a home and be able to stay in it, they need all those services wrapped around them once they're housed too. And so again, you know, it feels weird sometimes to get excited, like, thank you, COVID. However, again, out of this, it's hard to build empathy at an individual level for people experiencing homelessness, especially single adults. And this pandemic, I believe, will allow us to change the narrative and to flip the conversation and talk about health and how housing is healthcare.
And everything that's healthcare, right? Like, I was serving Amy as a interim executive director for a hygiene mission-based organization.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And basic hygiene, right? For the underserved, the individuals experiencing homelessness. I mean, you have to ask, so if they're supposed to be sheltering at home, do they have the necessities for that, you know? And again, where is home? So having those challenges and having the access to help in all of these holistic ways is really so important. So sign me up. I'm on your bandwagon. I'll do what I can with the script. Oh, absolutely. I definitely want to help to, you know, elevate that that narrative, because it's so important, really important. And yeah, this has been phenomenal, and I can't wait to see what's next. And like, you know, and you just said post-COVID, or, you know, what that might look like.
Right.
Some things will continue, but I'm right there with you, side by side, hoping for the same thing.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
You know, Amy, I think one of the things about strong leadership is communication. And I've really been taken how you draw the circle in a way. It might not be a perfect circle, but you link all these different things. You started with the simple conversation that seemed kind of fun about mail, but how that's such an organic part to solving or managing all these other issues. So it's riveting to see how you've been able to pull in different things that for most of us, we take, you know, we're like, well, that's just a given. My mail's going to show up every day. I know my mailman. He's been coming here for 20 years, you know.
Or I don't want my mail. It always has bills.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's fascinating. And I can see how your leadership is put to task through communication, because most of us would never, ever have any idea, you know.
Thank you.
Yeah, really interesting. Really, really interesting. Well, we're going to be really excited to see how you're going. Rahm Emanuel, the mayor of Chicago, the chief of staff for President Obama, he's the one that always said, never waste a good crisis. That's
Thank you. There we go.
That's
the quote. Yes.
It is. And it's so harsh.
It is, yeah.
So harsh, but you know, Jarrett and I think daily we remind ourselves through the nonprofit show that, to your point, Amy, there have been some amazing opportunities for change and lessons learned that you can carry forward.
Yes.
That might not have emerged without this.
Right.
They didn't have to, right? We could just keep in the flow, and now we've been shaken, and there's no way going back to that normal. And so really seeing those silver linings, I think is great. You know, and what, so say the quote again, Julia.
It's Rahm Emanuel, and it's never waste a good crisis.
Never waste a good crisis.
Yeah.
Amy, you have not wasted a good crisis. So.
Thank you.
You have not. You have not. Well, this has been amazing. And again, Amy, it's a pleasure to know that There are people like you in communities around our world that are doing amazing things, helping to illuminate for those of us who never have to worry about this, what it means to really be a servant in your community, and look at the management of things and how we can engage. So I'm really honored that you're here, especially in my community. I'm glad you're not in somebody else's community because I know the great work you do. And so I say from the bottom of my heart, thank you for what you've done. It's truly amazing. Hey, Miss Jarrett, the nonprofit nerd, you want to take us home?
Sure, happy to. So thanks for joining us. This has been Julia Patrick, CEO of the American Nonprofit Academy, as well as myself, Jarrett Ransom, your nonprofit nerd with the Raven Group. And this has been Amy Schwabenlinder, Executive Director of the Human Services Campus. Thank you so much, Amy. It's great to reconnect. It's great to hear all the wonderful work and the puzzle pieces that you hold in place for our community. So thank you for that. Again, we are streaming on Roku, so you can find us if you have Roku as an availability in your home. It's in 39 homes, so chances is high that we could be in
39 million.
Oh, that's right.
39 million.
Okay, you're right. I always I think it's crazy. So yeah, I'm just in awe. So it's wonderful. But yeah, so you can find us there. And again, thanks to our amazing presenting sponsors for elevating this conversation across the globe and allowing us to bring in guests like Amy to share with us some trends and everything going on in various communities. So this has been another episode of The Nonprofit Show. We invite you to join us again tomorrow. And until then, stay well so you can do well. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you, Amy.
Thanks so much. Bye.